Hold on a second.
So I pretty much described this panel as if you saw anything Hanna-Barbera, cartoon, Sonic, anything that you think you know, you love, you recognize, most likely you did it.
I'm responsible for some of the younger
Unsung
people here
hero.
selling you all that shitty Pebble cereal that you ate.
Flintstones.
Yeah, I did about 200 Pebble cereal commercials.
Yep.
I'm the only person alive who would be proud to say that, only because the Flintstones were the characters that made me want to become a cartoonist back in 1960 when I was 9 years old.
I remember your Facebook status. You wrote something like, now it's like John Cena or something on the front cover, like
it was, but they've gone back to the other stuff now.
Okay. I was like,
Just kind of small. You know, if you put the screen diagonal in that corner, you have
let's try that.
distance, a bigger image.
Oh, good. They're not blaming me for a change.
Put it as far over in the corner as you can get it.
All right, let me see if we're on
The
the
longer
right.
you get away, the
Right,
bigger.
right.
There we go. Okay. You know, if you push that little button on the on the top on the side, those legs retract. Sort of mine, but
Just kind of an odd angle, you know.
well, that's what I'd recommend. Any of you back in the corner there, I won't boo you when you leave. Because otherwise, it's going to be like looking at one of those things that, you know, when you turn it this way, you can see it says a Jim Steranko effect or something.
What did you say about collapsing the lens?
See that little button on the top and the front?
This one here?
No, on the top. That.
Okay.
That causes the legs to go down. Hey, there you go.
look at that, people. Thank you very much.
Now, yeah, that looks like it's more or less.
I'll bring the lights down.
Okay, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
That's Gary?
Yes.
Gary, thank you. We all appreciate it.
So I wanted to start off with, how did you get into your background as a cartoonist?
Well,
Comics veteran.
let me talk about it as I do the show, because I think that'll answer a lot of your questions. I'm not kidding.
All right, let's do this.
I'm not kidding.
There you
There's
are.
me. There's me when I haven't been beaten up by my own recycling bin. And this is a very, very slow computer. There's the strip that
Yeah.
I'm probably best known for co-creating as Captain Carrot and the Zoo Crew. And as you can see, they definitely. The premise of this book was what if Jack Kirby drew Mighty Mouse? DC published it for a few years, and I wrote through that. Here's one where I actually turned up on the cover. You can see down there at the bottom, I'm Scotty Shaw, a little blue dog. That was back when I had a long curly mustache. This is one of the recent ones that Bill Morrison and I did together. And I was, like I said earlier, I was the first guy that ever drew Sonic the Hedgehog for comics. This is me doing one of my own characters, Urban Gorilla. And I believe this next one takes a while. To go back to how I became a cartoonist, I was one of the kids that started San Diego Comic Con. And I was about 17 when we started. And I knew I wanted to be a cartoonist, and I had been doing underground comics. But I met enough cartoonists that told me that I more or less had a potential career in it. There you see, those are all characters I've designed for different comic book series that have been published. Captain Carrot there in the foreground, but in the lead, but all of them. Even the Rocky Rhino character that you barely see him on the edge there, that Rhino Records did, I designed him as well. But meeting all those artists inspired me to go up to LA and move to Los Angeles. And I took a job at a comic book store down the street from Hanna-Barbera. And within 9 months, I was working for Hanna-Barbera freelance on their comic books, and this was the first published thing I ever did. As I said, I did not only the commercials, I did the Pebbles boxes. This is one of my boxes. I designed the prizes that were in the cereal. This was one of them. This was a poster I designed that you could get free in a box. And I essentially drew this thinking, what would the 9-year-old Scott Shaw like to find in his box of shitty cereal? This was the first published comic I ever did back in 1972. That was The Turd. And The Turd was a big monster that climbed out of the sewer. Believe it or not, this was based on a Hulk comic that Herb Trimpe did. Herb's here at the show. So I asked him to talk to you about the 3 panels of a Hulk issue where a monster called the Glob turned into dog shit, and I took it from there. You'll know what you mean. I did the Burger King comics, and you can see I kind of put a lot of scenes like I like from OddBall Comics here on the cover. I used to do all of Rhino's advertising work. This is a catalog cover I did for him.
When was the Burger King comic? Now I want it.
That was in the 90s, I think.
I was born? You're
Yeah.
gonna go find it?
This is the Ramones, part of the Ramones thing I did. Any Ramones fans probably have the Weird Tales of the Ramones box set. This was something that was produced in the comic that came with the CDs, and it's kind of done as a poster, and he has a T-shirt design. Unfortunately, even though I own the image, the Ramones own all rights to it now, so if you want to see a T-shirt of this, you'll have to talk to them. I also worked for Bongo for about 10 years. This is one of my back stories. This is one that I actually wrote a story with Sergio Aragones on, where Homer buys a haunted clown car that when he drives it, he turns into a Big Daddy Roth monster. It's called Crustine. And this, lots of pages here from comics. So, and this is going to really lead into the show here. See the guy in the middle there with the blue and black hair? That's me. That's how Jack Kirby drew me back in 1972. This was in an issue of Jimmy Olsen comics. And my buddies and I that all came up with the San Diego Comic Con, he made us all into bad guys. We were called the San Diego 5-String Mob, and we were a rock band from Apocalypse sent to Earth to kill Superman. He never made it.
How did he beat you?
I think we just ran away real fast, kind of like the Three Stooges. Okay, this is the Oddball Comic Show, and as you can see right there, this is a different issue of Jimmy Olsen. He says, at the top there, it says, Kirby says, don't ask, just buy. And that's what I'm asking you guys. I've been doing this show long before Photoshop. I'm not dicking around with these covers and making weird things. These are all comics that you saw on newsstands, or that were on newsstands and spinner racks and stuff before you were born. I also like this cover because it says, rushing toward the greatest climax ever seen in comics, which explains why they keep using plastic bags. They don't want to get this thing on anybody. Okay, here's a superhero comic. This is probably one of the longest running superheroes ever. DC bought the rights, but this is Blue Beetle. And we can see the Blue Beetle here looks like he's having a photo taken for his high school yearbook. And he's fighting apparently a giant Ralph Cramden from the Honeymooners.
And which Blue Beetle is this? Most people know Ted Kord.
This is Ted Kord. This is the guy that gave Ted Kord stuff. This is Dan Garrett, who was the original Blue Beetle.
Dan Garrett, Ted Kord, and Jaime Reyes.
Right.
Is the current one.
And I don't even know if Jaime Reyes is going to be that for long. They keep changing it, DC keeps trying to change characters, thinking that'll make people like them more. And no, it just makes people stop reading them, the ones that like them. They don't get that.
Yep. I saw your post on Captain America.
Yeah, well, it was kind of pathetic, wasn't it? Okay, this was co-created by the creator of Superman, and obviously his mojo really wasn't working by this time. Mr. Muscles is not a very good name for a superhero, especially when the cover looks like he's a midget holding up a card table with a broken leg. I mean, it's...
Is that his only power?
Bang up and thrilling displays of physical strength and power. It sounds like it should be said with an English accent.
Is that his only power?
Yeah, I guess. He's just Mr. Muscles. Don't fuck with Mr. Muscles. He'll leave you looking like this. Okay, now in the history of comics, there is only one minstrel supervillain with a flame-throwing banjo, and this is the best one, and the only one, the minstrel. We're just lucky he's not in blackface. And fighting the dog, I mean, look, there have been lots of little miniature characters, and this character lasted for years. But what boy is going to buy a comic named Doll Man? I mean, if they did him now, he'd be Action Figure Man, right? Okay, this is called Captain Marvel, but it's not the real Captain Marvel. This is, and you make whatever pithy remarks you want. I just want to make sure that we get through a bunch of these.
No problem. I like how it's got plus Plastic Man.
Yeah, it's like the publisher Myron Fass was the guy's name, thought that all these characters were public domain, and they weren't. DC owned them, or I guess DC didn't own them yet, but I think they owned Plastic Man, but not Captain Marvel. Anyways, you can see their version of Captain Marvel was an android from outer space who, when he yelled "split," all the pieces of his body flew around the room. And
Well, did he come back? They come back.
And then they'd come back eventually.
Okay.
But you look where his wrist is and his
Yeah.
hand is separated. It looks like
Yeah.
he's made out of lunch meat.
Oh.
There's no wires. There's no anything electronic in there. But even more disturbing, look at the bad guys.
They look like middlemen.
They're robots with facial hair.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
really
no
creepy. It
teeth.
must be steel wool or something. I don't know. Okay, here's another. This is by the guy that created Captain Marvel, or co-created it. But this is Fat Man, the Human Flying Saucer. It only lasted 3 issues, but I bought all of them, of course. It's like all the books that failed were the ones I thought were the best ever.
Yes.
Because I like the weird, funny shit. This is a fat guy who turns into a rich fat superhero, who turns into a rich fat superhero flying saucer.